Asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityurma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness unto light, lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace.
A question might be, why would this kind of a philosophy lead you to be the most selfish monster ever possible? I am Brahman, I am limitless existence, consciousness, place, I am the only reality of this universe, all of you are figments of my imagination. It can lead to narcissism. Philosophically, this is called solipsism. Solipsism means only I exist. The subject is the only subject that exists. So why won't this kind of philosophy lead to that? It won't. Because notice carefully that what this does is to expand our notion of the self. The real problem in spiritual life is the limited self. The self which is tied to this body and mind, this person. There's a beautiful saying which I like, I don't know who said it. You can never be free of this person will never be free, but you can be free of the person. All spiritual paths, you see, the deadly problem, the deadly enemy is self-seeking selfishness. And they all tackle it in different ways. I mentioned 3 paradigms of spiritual life yesterday. One is the devotional paradigm, one is the yogic paradigm, one is the knowledge paradigm. We are working in the knowledge paradigm now. But let's see, how do these 3 paradigms tackle the problem of selfishness, self-seeking, narcissism? The devotional paradigm, it's very common in all the devotional religions, is to subordinate this little self to a greater self. Is to connect to a greater self. The greater self is God. I surrender to God. And I am nothing, you are all. Thou my Lord, I am nothing. So I deliberately practice self-abnegation. We'll see some of the stories of Saint Francis, which I will share later tonight. Becoming more and more humble, becoming lesser and lesser. You will see, this is something common to genuinely spiritual people. Whichever path. So in devotional path, this is done by devotion to God. In the presence of God, I am nothing. So Swami Turiyananda used to say, Vivekananda can say, I am he, I am Brahman. For us, it's better to say, thou my Lord, not I. So the devotional path. Lower yourself, humble yourself. I said today that it's a sad life where we do not have somebody or something where we can bow down. Then the yogic path. The yogic path, what it does is, it notices that selfishness, self-seeking, narcissistic personalities are also, they go together with disturbed mind. You will see, the selfish person is never a restful person. The narcissistic person, a person who is full of himself or herself, you will find that person has no peace, and you will get no peace in the company of that person. So, the reverse, peaceful mind will enable selflessness. So what the yogi does is by controlling the mind. The aim of yoga, remember, is to see the reality beyond the mind by calming the mind down, by stilling the mind. The narcissistic personality cannot still their minds. They're always vibrating with, flowing outwards all the time. The path of knowledge, how does it tackle the problem of selfishness? By expanding the self. The self is not just this person. It is all bodies, all minds, all persons, and transcending all of this too. This lowering one's own little self, self-abnegation, and realizing that I am the limitless self with a capital S, they are the same thing. They are not contradictory. If it makes me very proud and dismissive of others and full of myself, it's a misunderstanding of Advaita Vedanta. If you want more on this point, So Swami Atmarupanji beautifully deals with this point in the very verse which we are going to study now. The third verse which we are going to study. Actually, he is going to talk about it in not the third verse. It's actually his discussion in the commentary on the 6th verse. Those who are interested, page 39. Page 39. In page 39 you will see in the third paragraph, this view may sound like extreme selfishness. And this leads to philosophical solipsism. So then from 39, 40 and 41, he gives answers to this question of whether Advaita can lead to selfishness. Alright. These two approaches in spiritual life, lowering yourself before God or expanding yourself. Girish Ghosh, I think he said this of Vivekananda and Nag Mahashaya. So those who are acquainted with the devotees, the follower disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, you know Vivekananda of course, but you also know, some of you may have heard of Nag Mahashaya, who was a very saintly person, a householder who lived in Bengal, deeply, very humble, very self-abnegating. Somebody asked him, so he would consider himself the least of all those who were around him, like the servant of all. There are so many amazing stories about this Nag Mahashaya. So somebody asked him, a young monk asked him, Vivekananda always said that never think of yourself as a sinner, never think of yourself as small, you always think of yourself as great and glorious. So why do you keep saying that I am nothing, I am the least of all? So they asked Nag Mahashaya. And Nag Mahashaya replied with his disarming simplicity and honesty. He said, yes, Swami Vivekananda said that and that's true. But as for myself, I can only see my own limitations and my smallness. So what I'm saying is the truth. That I am not, although he was really saintly, people who came into contact with him. And that's how he became saintly. Girish Ghosh said these are these two ways. Nag Mahashaya made himself so small, that he escaped through the net of Maya. Maya was not able to catch him. And Vivekananda made himself so big, that he burst out of the net of Maya. We are sort of medium sized, that's why we are caught in the net of Maya. Now, the question arises, how are you Brahman? Just because you exist and you are aware and you seem to like yourself, and how does that make you Brahman? Brahman is the cause of the universe. The entire universe arises in Brahman. Are you the cause of the universe? It's ridiculous. What is the answer? Verse number 3. Maye vodeti chidvyomni Maye vodeti chidvyomni Jagat gandharva pattanam Jagat gandharva pattanam Atoham na katham brahma Atoham na katham brahma Sarvagyam sarvakaranam Sarvagyam sarvakaranam. In me alone, in the space of pure consciousness, this sky palace of the world arises. How then can I not be Brahman, all-knowing, the primal cause? Alright, what is the doubt and what's the answer here? In the books, you say that your characteristics, your nature matches Brahman, and therefore you are Brahman. You find that you exist, you shine, you are bliss, you are the source of bliss or happiness, and Brahman is Satchidananda. It matches, therefore you are claiming I am Brahman. Well, Mr. Know-it-all, you actually have to be a know-it-all to be Brahman, because Brahman is also described in those very texts you are referring to as the cause of this universe. Also described as omniscient. Are you really a know-it-all? Are you omniscient? Are you the cause of this universe? Cause of this universe? Sarvakarana, the cause of all. Omniscient, Sarvagya, all-knowing. This seems to be a checkmate. Who would be crazy enough to claim I am the cause of this universe? Well, Lakshmidhara Kavi is. And he says, yes, I am the cause of this universe, and I am all-knowing. I'll show you how, and you can say the same thing too. So this is the difference between the non-dual position and, say, somebody who is a narcissist. Narcissist would say, I am the greatest, I am the greatest, I am the cause of this universe, I am God. Not you, you have to worship me. The non-dualist will say, just as I am, you are too, and we are that one reality. This is the difference. There is one Swami Ramdas at one time, and it seems his brother was seriously mentally ill and he was put in a lunatic asylum. And then one day, the Swami went to meet his brother, and his brother said to him, brother, this is unfair. You teach everybody, I am God, Aham Brahmasmi, and they treat you as a guru, and they bow down to you and all. And I said, I am God, and they locked me up. This is not fair. And then he said, well, brother, when I say I am God, I mean everybody is God. And not separately, not many gods, we are all one divine reality. When you say, but what did you say? I am God, all of you worship me. Obviously they locked you up. That's megalomania. There's a difference. Now, Mayevo Devi, in me arises. What arises in me? Jagat, the universe. Like what? Gandharva Kattanam. Like the palace of the Gandharvas. Who are the Gandharvas? The celestial beings. But basically, what the palace of the Gandharva refers to, the amazing cloud formations which we see sometimes. They look like mountains. You know, when you fly up in the sky, or even from the ground, when you look up at towering cloud formations, they look like mountains and valleys, or they look like oceans, or they look like houses, or they look like people talking to each other. Some kind of fantastic formations in the sky. That is called the, in English also there is a phrase, castles in the sky. This is the same phrase. You imagine this. So the imaginary world of the Gandharvas which you see in the sky. Similarly, in you arises, in me arises this universe. How? Not in me, this person, not this body. Not even this person, this mind. But in the sky consciousness, in the consciousness of sky, or consciousness, in the sky that is consciousness. So the sky imagery is used in three levels here. One is the physical space, this one, where the whole of this retreat and Phoenix and the whole of this earth and all the stars and galaxies, they all exist in this vast limitless sky. This is called Mahakasha, the great space. Then inside, in our own experience, each of us, is this ocean of thoughts, feelings, emotions, ideas, of the various experiences of our life. This is called Chittakasha, the sky of the mind. And it's not just limited to each person separately. We seem to be cut off. But the Vedantic idea is that just as this is a physical universe, one limitless physical space, similarly, we are also one limitless mind. So there's a cosmic mind. We are aware of only our localized minds. It's like we feel like we are, computers cut off from the net. But then there is a net, which computers can plug into, and then they become part of a worldwide web. Similarly, there is a cosmic mind. Vedanta is called Hiranyagarbha, but it's also called the sky of the mind. Greater than that, subtler than that, is the sky of consciousness, awareness. For many reasons, sky is a good example. One is it's vast. Consciousness is vast. One is that it is formless. Everything here is with form. Not only just physical form that you can see, but sound is also a form. Taste is also a form, which with all different senses can access it. Everything is with form, but sky is formless. Similarly, consciousness is formless. Another thing is, the sky gives space. It is non-resisting. It's open to everything in this universe. In fact, because of it, all these things can exist. All these limited physical things can exist because of limitless sky. Similarly, because of this limitless consciousness, which does not resist any experience, it makes all experiences which we call our life possible. Good, bad, ugly, all of it. It's possible because of consciousness, awareness. So it's called the sky of awareness. Chidakasha. Or here he says, Chid Vyomni, in the sky that is consciousness. Very beautiful phrase used to indicate consciousness. But what is the sky of consciousness? It's you. It's you. He says, Mai, in me the sky of consciousness. The universe arises like castles in the sky, like the city of the Gandharvas. There is no city of the Gandharvas high up there, but it looks like that. Similarly, there is really no universe. It is just consciousness alone, which appears like this. Yeah. Now, so what's the point here? The cause of something, there are two kinds of causes, material cause and intelligent cause. One way of looking at it. Plato had its own take on it. In Indian philosophy, we talk about material causes and intelligent cause. So the wood which goes to make that lectern is the material cause, the material out of which the lectern is made. And the carpenter who skillfully designed this lectern is called the intelligent cause. So intelligent cause in Sanskrit, nimitta karana. Karana means cause. And material cause in Sanskrit, upadana karana. So what is the material cause of that lectern? Wood. What is the material cause of this universe? Consciousness. Consciousness itself. See, consciousness gives space for everything, including the sound and sounds. It's because of consciousness. In consciousness arises this display of what you see, what you hear, and what you think. The universe arises like a display in consciousness. Then what is the material cause of consciousness, of the universe? Consciousness. What is that consciousness? I. So I am the material cause of the universe. And now look at the book. What does the book say? Brahman is the cause of the universe. So I am Brahman. The universe is made of. Let's try to understand this a little more. Imagine our dreams. In our dreams, suppose in your dream, you don't remember your dreaming. I mean, you're fallen asleep. You're in a dream. You're walking down a nice retreat. You can see the mountains in the distance and the bright blue sky and the houses, the path and the cactus. Is it cacti or cactuses? Cacti. And the cacti all around. You see all of that. And the people, and have you seen the little hummingbirds? Yeah. Many of those flowers are designed for the beaks of the hummingbirds, or the beaks are designed for the flowers, or they're designed for each other. So, all of this you see. And then you wake up. Sitting on your bed, oh, I'd fallen asleep. In that case, now let me ask you, that which you saw, the retreat, the mountain in that retreat, what was it made of? It was not made of rock and sand and stone, it was made of you, the mind, the dreaming mind. By what were the houses in the retreat which you dreamt of? What were they made of? What you saw in your dream? They were made of the mind, the dreaming mind. They were not made of bricks and mortar and cement and wood. The people you saw walking around, the hummingbirds fluttering there in your dream, what were they made of? What is the material out of which they were made of? They were made of the mind, the dreaming mind, you. Isn't that true? And it's very natural. They say, yeah, I dreamt it all. I dreamt it all means, what were the objects in the dream, the components of the dream, what were they constituted of? They were constituted of the dreaming mind, of you. They were made of you. You are the material cause of the dream. Also the intelligence behind it. But anyway, we are concerned here is the material of the dream. The material cause of the dream, everything in the dream was you. Living, non-living, big like the sky, small like the hummingbird, everything was you. Living, non-living, big, small, artificial, natural, everything in the dream was you. You were the material cause of the dream. Alright? So, but in that case, Lakshmidhara Kavi argues, look at your experience of the waking world. Is it really outside you as we normally think, common sense, out there, or in consciousness? See, the way we normally think is, here is a vast world, organic, inorganic, all of that. And here is a body, a living body. In this living body is the mind. In the mind is the awareness. This awareness we're speaking about, it's in the mind. But Vedanta says, Actually, it is in your awareness, in consciousness. Why do you say your awareness of consciousness? In you the awareness, in you the consciousness. The word appears, the body appears, the mind appears, the senses appear, thoughts appear, Vedanta appears, all of it appears in consciousness. So, if two things can be shown, experienced separately, you can say that they are independent entities. So for example, I can show you the cloth separately from myself. Look, here is the cloth, and here I am. This is different, this is different. You can see this without seeing me, you can see me without seeing that. Then there are two independent things, separate things. But if there's something that you cannot see separately, the two always go together. The cloth and the thread which constitutes the cloth, you cannot see them separately. The cloth will not exist apart from the thread. The lectern will not exist apart from the wood. In that case, we have to say that somehow these two things, the lectern and the wood which constitutes it, the cloth and the thread, they are in some sense the same thing. They are not two separate entities because they cannot be separated in our experience. They're two different names, forms, uses. In Sanskrit, nama, rupa, vyavahara, but substantially speaking, they're literally the same entity. They cannot be separated. In that case, they are one entity. Now look at everything that we experience and consciousness itself. They cannot be separated. The entire universe, if I say universe is apart, a reality apart from your consciousness, then you have to show me a universe, any entity in the universe apart from consciousness. What's the criterion of deciding two things are separate? I said the criterion is the ability to experience them separately. It's a trick criterion, by the way. Why? What's the trick? The trick is built into the experience. Experience is consciousness plus object. E is equal to C plus O. Consciousness plus an object gives us experience. If there is consciousness, and any object that comes into consciousness is an experience. This, you are aware, conscious, I bring this object in. Of course you need light, you need eyes, you need the mind, all of that. But still, awareness is essential. Remember, everything is possible when the I am is there. If the I am is not there, everything disappears. You shining, everything here shines. By your light, everything here is lit up. I'm quoting the Upanishads. Tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam. That shining, everything here shines. Tasya bhasa sarvavidam vibhati. By the light of that, everything here is lit up. By your light, this is lit up. And that is called experience. You, the consciousness, plus clock, the object, you're lit up. Now, are they separate? The claim here, Lakshmidhara Kavi is saying, they are not separate. In order to say something is separate, you must be able to experience this and that separately. If they go together, the nice example that teacher gave was dentures, false teeth. Now, how do you know they are dentures or not? The person has a nice smile. How do you know they are real teeth or not? You can't know, because every time the person is there and the teeth are also there. You should be able to see the person without the teeth and the teeth without the person. So you end up in the person's room. I know there's a monk who was the most formidable Swami. We were all used to be scared of him when we were young monastic novices. And he had this glittering sharp smile. And we was scared of him, you know. One day I went to his room and I saw in the little bowl the teeth with the smile still there. And on the armchair, in the armchair, I saw this most kindly, toothless, grandfatherly person. The sweet grandmother with a toothless smile. So, you see them separately. So they are separate things. Sometimes they are together, but you can see them separately. Can you experience the universe apart from consciousness? By definition, you cannot. What is experience? Experience is consciousness plus object. Can there be experience without consciousness? No. So if you cannot experience the universe without consciousness, then experience and universe and consciousness go together. If they cannot be separated, then what's the conclusion? They must somehow be the same thing. Okay, same thing how? Notice here, the wood and the table are the same, the electron are the same thing. However, You can't separate the lectern from the wood. However, you can separate the wood from the lectern. What do you mean, Swami? The wood was a log of wood before you made it into a lectern. One day, a long time later, when it is no longer useful, maybe it will be scrapped. It will be just pieces of wood. It will no longer be a lectern, but the wood continues. Similarly, Lakshmidhara Kavi, he says, the consciousness continues. The universe appears, plays around and disappears. Appears where? In the consciousness. Plays around where? In consciousness. Disappears where? Where else? Back to consciousness. In that case, consciousness, just as wood is the material cause of this universe, consciousness is the material cause of the unit. Wood is the material cause of the lectern. The wood was getting glorified. I am the material cause of the universe. But it would be a very wooden universe then. Consciousness is the material cause of the universe. Alright, but I am consciousness. Therefore, I am the material cause of the universe. But you define Brahman as the material cause of the universe. I am the material cause of the universe. I am Brahman. Hence proved. QE. Easily answered question. Yeah. So this is the argument here. There is the book. It's hidden under Maya. See? Yes. Now look at the verse. Mayeva udeti chidvyomi. In me. Which me? Not body, not Sarvapriyananda, not person, not mind. Awareness, consciousness, the I am. In me the I am. What is experienced? Universe. So if the universe is experienced in me, then I am the cause of the universe. What is the universe? Like a castle, display of clouds in the sky, castles in the sky. Gandharva Bhattakam, the city of the Gandharvas. So I am Sarvapriyananda. I am the cause of everything. There will be questions to this also, but see the answer. So I am the cause of everything. Alright, but we don't know everything. So Sarvajnam, how he analyzes Sarvajnam, omniscient. There is one thing that is knowing everything in detail, like the Encyclopedia Britannica. I read somewhere, Elon Musk, he read the Encyclopedia Britannica when he was a kid. So, is it all knowing like that? You memorize the contents of the Encyclopedia Britannica? No, not like that. Sarvajna means sarvascha gyascha. This is a deeper meaning. Sarva means everything, and gya means consciousness. You are everything, and you are consciousness. In that sense, Sarvajna. But what is the, somebody might say, you're trying to slip out of it. The meaning of omniscience is to know everything. Well, we give an answer in Advaita Vedanta. Knowing everything means knowing the truth about everything. What's the use of knowing the false things, the fake news? We need the truth. The truth about everything is that it's Brahman. And I know that Brahman as I, me, myself. So I'm all knowing. And this is how actually enlightened ones people know, in that sense they know everything. They know everything is Brahman. I remember we had this most remarkable monk, one of the few I consider to be Jivan Mukta, whom I have met in this life. He has passed now, so I can take his name, Swami Mokshadanandaji, or lovingly known as Ram Maharaj. There is only one book which he ever wrote. It's a translation of the Jivan Mukti Viveka of Vidyaranya Swami. And that too most unwillingly. There's another monk who was very devoted to him, and he pressurized him for more than a decade to write this book. So there's only one publication by him, Swami Mokshadananda, Jivan Mukti Viveka. And I used to go to this monk whenever I got a chance. I was a novice, I didn't understand too much at that time. So I'll give you two little stories about him. Well, first, how I met him for the first time. This is a very cute story. When I went to our main monastery in Belur Math on the bank of the Ganga, first time I visited as a novice monk. The ashram where I was, a monk there told me, oh, you're going to Belur Math? There are at least two, apart from the president of the order and the vice presidents, there are at least two other monks you must meet. They are enlightened beings, at least we know them to be enlightened. You must meet, on the spiritually advanced. He didn't say enlightened, they're spiritually advanced. So one of them was Mokshadhanti, whose name I can take because he has passed. Another one I cannot take because he is still there. You must meet them. So I went and met both of these monks. So Swami Mokshadhanti, how I met him was, there was a place where old monks stayed, those who were sick, very advanced in age. So he's there. I went up there, a group of monks standing. Somebody said, look, he's there. I went, but I made a mistake. I bowed down to another monk who I thought was Mokshadhanti. And that monk didn't pay any heed to me. He was standing on a terrace and looking out. And I was hoping for some words from him, so I was sort of disappointed. There was another monk standing next to me. He looked a little bit like Einstein, fluffy white hair and bright eyes. He always looked like that. Very fair with glittering eyes and a sweet smile and this halo of hair. He asked me, oh, where are you from? I said, from the Devghar ashram, Ramakrishna Mission ashram. And I'm a novice, monastic novice. He said, please convey my regards to the Swamis there in Devghar. So I had to ask him, whom shall I say has conveyed his regards? And he said, Ram Maharaj. I said, oh, you are Ram Maharaj. And he said, no. I was taken aback. And he said, my name is Ram. I am not Ram Maharaj. That really, I still remember that text. I can visualize it. And then he took me to his room and then we talked. He was ill. He used to take 9-10 hours of oxygen every day, but I never saw him without a smile, few words of wisdom, kindness. And the one time I dared to ask him, how are you? Like all Americans ask, how are you? And you're supposed to say, I'm good, and how are you? But in India, it's actually a question about how you really are and how you're doing. The only time I asked him that, I thought he's ill, I'm supposed to ask him. He said, you aren't a doctor, so it's no use talking about that. One thing I noticed about all these really spiritually advanced monks or spiritual seekers, they're not particularly interested in talking about the body. They're the exact opposite of hypochondriacs. So two stories. Once, I was sitting next to him and asking him, I thought every time I had to go, I thought I had to have some complicated Vedanta question. Over time, I realized you don't need any questions. Just go and bathe in his presence. That's uplifting. And you remember it all your life, long after he has left his mortal body. So that I had asked some question, I forget what the question was, but his answer, I said always, Swami, I have this feeling that the reality is right here, even from a childhood, but there's a veil between me and that reality. Somehow I have to pierce through that veil, and then I will realize that I have that feeling from childhood. And then the Swami said, why a veil? Here it is. Pointed at the window. And of course I didn't get it. Here? This? He said, yes. What else? I said, this window? This tree outside? This is Brahman? And he said, not quite like that. Let it be. It will happen in due course. So what was he pointing at? This ever-present reality shining through. See, if you point out, this is wood, I'd say, no, this is a lectern. How can that be wood? That's the problem. This is a wood. No, this is a wall. How can that be wood? That means I don't understand what wood is, basically. I'm not seeing it. The enlightened one sees that present everywhere. And in that sense, the enlightened one is omniscient. Because everything, suppose there's a lump of clay, and then somebody manufactures pots out of it. Now what do you know? All those pots, you don't know the shape, the size, the various ornamentation of the pots, but you know one thing, it's all clay. And as long as you're assured it's made of that same material, you know it's clay. All the waves, you don't know what kind of waves there may be in the ocean out there, but you know right now, sitting here, it's water. Similarly, the enlightened one realizing I am limitless existence, consciousness, bliss, the world appears in me, whatever is there in this universe, whatever is there, known and unknown, it must be this existence, consciousness, bliss. So, omniscient. There used to be this Alright, one more story about Ram Maharaj. Again on the same point. A monk once told me that, I'm mystified. I went to Ram Maharaj and he said this, that cabinet, I don't know what's in that cabinet, but I know what it really is. This monk was mystified. What did he mean by that? I was excited. I still remember I told that monk, he basically admitted to you that he's a Brahmagyani, enlightened person. He was pointing out something, that you don't know in detail what it is, but it's reality you know. What is it? It's existence, it's being, it is awareness itself appearing in particular names and forms. What those names and forms are, I don't know. Some of them I know, most of them I don't know. But I know, just like all those pots are clay, all the gold made out of that lump of gold are gold, all the ornaments made out of that lump of gold are gold, all waves in the ocean are water. Everything that exists as an object is an object to consciousness, in consciousness, nothing but I, the consciousness, appearing in all these ways. So, these two incidents. So we were studying Tibetan Buddhism in a class at the Harvard Divinity School. And there was this debate. It was a debate in Mahayana Buddhism. So the Buddha is always said to be omniscient, all-knowing. But equally, in Buddhism, especially Mahayana Buddhism, and Tibetan Buddhism in particular, whatever there is in this universe, is false, it's a construct, it's not reality. So when Buddha knows everything, does he know a lot of falsity? Does he know a lot of lies? So the Buddha knows only the truth, and all is an appearance, is not the truth. So then the Buddha knows everything or nothing. And the question that was raised was, so when you become a Buddha, is it that you just know nothing at all? Because everything is false anyway. So, and the professor named it brainstem Buddha. Are you reduced to a brainstem? No, that's most unappealing. Why would anybody want to become enlightened? You are omniscient only in this sense. It's not that you know everything in detail. Is it possible to know everything in detail all the time? Yes, but then you would have to be God, Ishvara or Bhagavan. Same consciousness in association with cosmic mind knows everything in detail. Same consciousness in association with individual minds knows a tiny slice of things in detail, but if you are enlightened, you will realize it's the same consciousness anyway, everywhere. That's why the enlightened person, in a devotional mode, those who are in the path of devotion, you will see they will end up by seeing their beloved Lord everywhere. Everywhere. Because it's the same principle. In consciousness, the universe arises. So they see their beloved Lord everywhere. In Sri Ramakrishna's life, there's the devotee Gopalerma, literally meaning the mother of Gopala. She was this elderly Brahmin lady, a widow, who had worshipped the child Gopala all her life. Krishna, the child Krishna, all her life. And then she had to see the stages of realization. She had the vision of Krishna as a child, with whom she could see with open eyes. Nobody else saw the child, but she could see it. And her joy knew no bounds. And then she didn't have to meditate with eyes closed, visualizing Krishna. Because with open eyes, she saw Krishna. And then the next stage, she saw Krishna in every being. There is a saying, Jo Ram Dasharath ka beta, Soi Ram Jagat Pasera, So Ram Ghat Ghat mein leta. What does it mean? It's very sweet, rustic Hindi. That Rama, incarnation of God, that Rama who is the son of the king Dasharatha. So as the person Rama, this is the incarnation of God. Soi Ram Jagat Pasera, that Rama is the creator of the universe, God. And that Rama is present in every object of the universe. Now you understand how. It's because every object of the universe shines in consciousness, is in consciousness, appears in consciousness, and disappears back into consciousness. Therefore, that consciousness is the cause of the universe, material cause, and also is all-knowing in the sense that it is the reality of all things, and you are that consciousness. So that's the meaning of this verse. I am all-knowing in the sense I know everything is really Brahman, consciousness. I am the cause of this universe because I am the consciousness in which the universe appears, plays along, and disappears. All of this can be challenged and vigorously debated, and they have been for more than 1,000 years. The dualistic schools of Vedanta, they all challenged Advaita Vedanta, and all of these were thoroughly discussed. But to the extent that I know these dialectics, I still haven't come across a question that was not satisfactorily answered. Then, number 4. Atmarupanandaji, the writer here, he concludes the discussion on this verse very nicely on page 27. He says, let's bring the whole verse together now. When I begin to feel, to intuit that the whole universe arises within my consciousness, or you just say within me the consciousness, the whole universe arises, including this body, including my thoughts and perceptions. It arises in consciousness, like an insubstantial sky palace. Then I can't doubt that I am Brahman, all-knowing, the primal cause, even long before the full realization dawns. At least intellectually I grasp what the thrust of the argument is. Alright, then, next. We'll do this and stop. The next one is a heavy hitter. We'll do number 4 and 5. I'll do it fast, not in the sense that I'll double my speed of talking. Many people accuse me of talking too fast anyway. What I'll do is, I'll run through the arguments fast without repetition. I'll do it like a TED Talk. TED Talk is supposed to be like 18 minutes or something. I did a TED Talk once, long ago, in India, and one more recently online. But the online thing is not as tough as the actual one which you do on the stage. And it's the toughest thing that I've done. I vowed never again to do it. Because you have to finish in 18 minutes. You're there talking, and the audience is there. First of all, there were strong lights on my face because it's meant really for an internet audience. There's a live audience. I said you have to switch on the lights in the hall. I have to see people when I talk to them. Then second, then say, move around naturally. So then we'll give you a whole kit. If you're a TED speaker, they'll give you a whole kit, which will teach you how to be a TED speaker. So move around naturally. But don't step outside the circle. They'll draw circles around. Because it's an internet event, so the cameras are focused on a particular place. So everything is like that. Be natural, talk about yourself, but don't boast. So like that. And time. So there are 3 big screens on the ground. You can't see them in the TED Talks, but if you're on the stage, you can see them. Big screens on the ground. One of them is counting up from 0.00000 in hundredths of a second, up to 18 minutes. The other one is counting down in hundredths of a second. It's like you're in a 100-meter sprint, from 18 to 0. And the other one is showing you how you look to the audience. And if you see all these displays, how are you going to talk? I don't know. Other people seem to manage it so well. It's difficult for me. And then it seems so natural and spontaneous. Believe me, it isn't. It's all rehearsed carefully. Before the event, you have to go through the whole thing before a panel of people who will watch you and critique you. And that helped. So if you look at the TED Talk which I gave, you notice I stopped just 14 seconds before the time was over. I stopped at 17 minutes, 44 seconds or something, 46 seconds. So I realized if I began one more sentence, I wouldn't be able to end it. So I'll do that now. Now the question is, alright, you claim you're Brahman, but Brahman is eternal. Without beginning, without end. All your great so-called I am, I'm aware, I'm blissful, all will go out when you die. Lights out, finished. Are you eternal? They will say, yes, I am. Let's see. Naswata pratyabhigyana, naswata pratyabhigyana,
न स्वतः प्रत्यभिज्ञानात् निरंशत्वात् न चान्यतः निरंशत्वात् न चान्यतः न चाश्रय विनाशान्मे न चाश्रय विनाशान्मे विनाशस्यादनाश्रयात् विनाशस्यादनाश्रयात्. Self-destruction is impossible because I recognize myself, nor is destruction from another possible as I have no parts, nor can I be destroyed by the destruction of my substratum as I have none. His argument here is, I am Brahman. Why? Because I am eternal. So, Brahman is defined as eternal. Therefore I am Brahman. But how are you eternal? Because I cannot be destroyed. How can you not be destroyed? Let us consider the sources of destruction, how destruction happens. Broadly speaking, destruction of an entity, any entity, happens either by itself, swataha, by itself. I'll explain what is meant by itself. Or it happens because of something else. I'll explain what it means by something else. Or it happens because of the destruction of the foundation or the basis on which something exists. So destruction by itself, it could mean, die of old age. A medicine expires. Just by its own nature, a thing comes to an end. That could happen. Destruction by something else. I could die if a car hits me, or if COVID comes and kills me. I could die. Or by the destruction of its basis or support. If I'm staying in a house and the house goes up in fire, I'll be destroyed. Or if I'm deprived of air, if I drown, or if I'm deprived of food and water, the basis on which I exist, if that is taken away, then I will die. Swami here gives an example. You write something and the paper is burnt. The support of the writing is the paper. When the paper is burnt, your writing is also lost. Your data is on the hard disk. Hard disk crashes. Then your data is lost. The support of the data is hard disk. You will say, no Swami, it's in the cloud. Yes, not always. Not many people don't know about the cloud. Alright. Now he says, not by itself. I cannot be destroyed by my own nature. Why? He says, consider there are three ways in which a thing may be destroyed by its own nature. One is the most difficult challenge, which comes from the Buddhist theory of momentariness. The Buddhists say, look, consciousness is important, but it's not what you make it out to be. You Hindus, you think that it is a limitless consciousness, awareness, existence, bliss. Not like that. It's flashes. It's a series of flashes. What we are a series of flashes of consciousness. Consciousness appears and then disappears. And then appears and disappears. Along with that consciousness comes the contents of the consciousness like mind, body and external world. This is called Vijnanavada. In Buddhism, this is called the mind-only school. It is a very powerful school. About 300-400 years after the Buddha it came up. Vasubandhu, Dharmakirti and some other very great masters. So they taught this. But I feel like a continuous being, illusion. You're being fooled. You are a continuous series of flashes. You have this illusion of continuity. Every moment it is being destroyed, moment to moment, by its very nature. It arises and it disappears. Flash. Actually, what's going on here is this. I'll tell you the internal mechanics of it. Our thoughts are like that. Thoughts arise and disappear very fast. The more we attend to it, we'll see how fast thoughts, sensory perceptions, they're all coming and going. Now this Buddhist mind-only school, at least superficially, they are not able to distinguish consciousness from the contents of thought. So as the thoughts come and go, they think consciousness is coming and going. If I show you a mirror, and your face in the mirror, and I keep turning the mirror like this, you'll feel my face is appearing and disappearing. And if you did not know that your real face is here, you thought that face in the mirror is my real face, you will say there's no continuity of the face in the real face in the mirror, it just it appears and disappears. It's the mirror which is being turned back and forth. Or a movie, a series of still pictures, when they're shown to us in a continuous stream, it feels like a moving thing.
Now, so consciousness appears and disappears. There is no constant consciousness. Consciousness is born and it dies every moment. Kshanika Vijnanavada. The Buddha said, impermanent, impermanent, all is impermanent, including you. Not only impermanent, momentary, all is momentary. Not impermanent in the sense, okay, I am impermanent, I know that I was born, if I live for 100 years, that's fine. That much impermanence I can take. No, not even 100 years. You're born and you die every moment. Then impermanent, everything is impermanent. Empty, everything is empty. And suffering, everything is suffering. So that Buddha says, anityam, sarvam anityam, kshanikam, sarvam kshanikam, shunyam, sarvam shunyam, Dukkham, sarvam dukkham. Now, our answer to that is, Lakshmidhara Kavi says, no. Pratyavijnana. I am not born and dying every moment. Why? Because of recognition. Recognition. This is why I stressed in the first verse, when I say, I am, this is clear. I also stressed a couple of times, we recognize it as the same I am. Yesterday is gone. I have memories of arriving into this center, checking in and getting into the room. All those things are in the past. But the I am which recognized, which experienced all that is the same I am which is right here now. We recognize it. We recognize it. Recognition means the continuity. See, there's a difference, three things. Memory, perception, recognition. What is memory? I saw something. So, for example, I saw this center for the first time yesterday. Now I think about it, that's a memory. When we leave this place and go back home and we think about it, it will be a memory. You're not seeing this place, you're remembering it. It's only recovered from your mind. What is perception? Seeing it directly. Now you are seeing it. This perception. You're not remembering this place, you're seeing it. What is recognition? Perception and memory together. How do you recognize a person? Oh, you are the same person I met in New York. How do you recognize that person? You recognize by seeing that person and remembering. Both together. Remembering and seeing give you the assurance of continuity. I'll repeat that. Remembering and seeing give you the assurance of continuity. Clearly, I, the consciousness which experienced yesterday, is I, the consciousness experiencing today. Nobody doubts that. In that case, it has continued. The Buddhist will say, you know what the Buddhist will say to this? I don't know if you are with me or I'm just on my own trip. I'm having fun. So is Lakshmidhara Kavi. Now you have to enjoy it. The Buddhist will say to this that, yeah, it only looks like that to you, that you recognize it. But what you recognize is an illusion. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's an illusion. You, the consciousness yesterday, and you, the consciousness today, are not the same consciousness. In fact, you, the consciousness last moment, and the consciousness which began this sentence, and the consciousness which is ending this sentence, are two different consciousnesses. It's born and dies. Flash. What will you reply to that? Well, the reply, it's a long debate. By the way, it's about 800 years of debate. I'm trying to summarize it. The debate between the Vijnanavadi and various Hindu schools, especially the Purva Mimamsa master Kumarila Bhatta. He is the one, there's a text, forensically took apart this kind of Buddhist idealism. Niralamba Pariksha, that's the text. It's a part of a bigger word. Niralambavada Pariksha, an analysis of the consciousness only, the mind only school. And it's a very forensic analysis. He just tears it apart. I'm just giving you samples. What will you say if you say that, no, that consciousness was born, then it died, it's a new consciousness, and this feeling of familiarity, I was there, I am here, you are being duped because they look similar. But I remember, that memory was transferred from that earlier consciousness to yours. It's just the memory which is fooling you. You are not the same. You are born and you die every moment. There are many arguments against this, but one argument is this. Alright, so I begin this moment and then I persist for at least one moment to be experienced, and the next moment I die. And the moment after that I begin again. In between there must be a gap. If there is no gap, if you say, oh Buddhist, if you say there is no gap, there is one continuous consciousness. If there is a gap without consciousness in between, you say yes, there is a gap. It's discrete flashes of consciousness. If there is a gap of consciousness in between, who knows it? Who experiences that gap? What gives you the right to talk about that gap? Because you yourself said everything is experienced in consciousness. Then the gap also must be experienced in consciousness. Then what is the consciousness which experiences that gap? If there is a consciousness which experiences that gap, in that case consciousness becomes continuous. It's in the gap also. If there is no consciousness which experiences that gap, then that gap cannot be experienced, so it's not in consciousness. Consciousness becomes continuous without a gap. So like this. Not by itself. Consciousness does not disappear by itself. Then the second way consciousness could disappear by itself would be waking, dreaming, deep sleep. This is very easily overcome. The one which was waking, gone. The dreaming is separate. But we know the one to whom the waking world appeared is the same consciousness, I, to whom the dreams happened. It's the same consciousness, I, to whom there was nothing, blankness and deep sleep. It's the same consciousness, I, to whom the waking world appeared again. By how do you know this? By recognition. Do you all recognize when we say, see the same thing here? Ah, that's my book, I recognize it. Similarly, when we look at consciousness, do we not recognize it as consciousness? If it's bare consciousness, how can one bare consciousness be different from another bare consciousness? The same consciousness. So waking, dreaming, deep sleep doesn't destroy you. How do you know? Logic, pratyavijnana, by recognition. You recognize yourself to be the same consciousness. Not the same world, not the same room, not the same food, not the same dress, not the same body also, not even the same person, but the same consciousness. Another way it could be is by destruction of yourself. Somebody might say, look, forget all this esoteric philosophy and subtle thinking. The simple fact is when you die, your consciousness is gone. That's it. It's gone. But that presupposes two huge presuppositions there. That means, what are you saying when you die? When you die, the physical body dies. There is no doubt about it. All doctors, physiologists, and our common sense say, what is death? Death of the physical body, everybody agrees. Now the next step is the interesting thing, where we trick ourselves, where we don't pay attention. What makes you think the death of the physical body is the death of consciousness? Or even person, death of the physical body is the death of the person. Why do we think that? Well, because that person isn't talking to me anymore. Obviously not. Body is dead. How is he going to talk? Well, what is the person? When I talk to you, I don't feel I'm talking to a body. I don't feel I'm talking to a zombie. I feel I'm talking to a sentient being. Just like that, I have feelings and perceptions within myself. There are feelings and perceptions there. Now, when the body shuts down, why do I think that the feelings and perceptions are gone? Behind it is the materialist reductive assumption that these feelings and perceptions, this consciousness, is a product of the living brain. Isn't it? Isn't that the assumption? But then we run straight into what is called the hard problem of consciousness. That's the biggest question in consciousness studies today in the world. Just Google it. The phrase was framed by David Chalmers, who's in NYU. How does a physical thing like the brain generate consciousness? The materialist will tell you, no, the brain is generating consciousness. How? Because the last thing, can you observe it? Because every process, physical process, can be observed by some instrument or the other. Can you observe the electrical activity in the brain being transformed into consciousness? You can't. The last thing that our third person observation through scientific instruments will show us is tiny masses of electrical activity going on in the brain. But taste, sight, pleasure, pain, joy, peace, where is it? You must complete the process of observation to show me that this activity in the brain is giving rise to this feeling. Show me the feeling also. You must do this. You can't jump. You're saying I'm showing activity, and then you are saying that you are feeling pain. So the activity in the brain is causing pain. How? You are not completing the process. I saw this cartoon. A PhD student is writing step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Step 1 and 2, lot of mathematics. Step 4, lot of mathematics. Step 3 is written, a miracle. And the guide is saying, I think you have to work on step 3. This jump is there in every theory of consciousness which has come up, even the latest ones, Tonini, integrated information theory and whatnot. Everywhere you just do one thing, look for the jump. There will always be a jump. Either they will say, oh, it's all brain processes and we don't know how consciousness comes, or they will say something, yeah, brain processes, but it's also all information, and then somehow that information is first person experience. Information is objective. How does that become the subject? It's a category mistake to jump from the object to the subject, from drishya to drashta. Anyway, so that's one huge assumption you have to make. That to say that when brain is dead, consciousness is dead, you have to assume that somehow brain is producing consciousness. And the other huge assumption that you have to make is the idealistic problem of idealism. How do you know that there is a universe apart from consciousness? Because everything you have experienced in the universe, and in principle, everything that can be experienced must be in consciousness. There are certain subtle details to be worked out here, important questions, no time for that. So two huge problems. If you want to say the death of the body, consciousness is dead, you are making two huge philosophical jumps. One is you are assuming the world exists apart from consciousness. That's the materialistic assumption, or what's called in philosophy realism. That there is a real world apart from consciousness. But you have to prove that. And it's still an open question. I know many people in philosophy will say it's not an open question, but it is. I mean, if you see the proofs, the refutation of idealism, this is for those who study philosophy. G.E. Moore, the refutation of idealism. What is his refutation? That everything is real and outside the mind. Here is one hand, he says, and here is another. They exist outside the mind. So, idealism is refuted. This is no proof. And so on. So two huge problems. One is the problem of the world existing apart from consciousness. You have to prove that. That means brain exists apart from consciousness. And you have to prove that that brain, which exists apart from consciousness, now can generate consciousness. Hard problem of consciousness. You have to overcome the problem of idealism and the hard problem of consciousness. Then only you can say physical death is death of consciousness. But that is not true. And that is in fact a burning, a hot topic now. Nasvata, by itself, a thing does not die. By waking, dreaming, deep sleep, thing does not. You don't die. By death of the physical body, we cannot be proved that you are dying. Then he says, no, by contact with the other, these are answered easily. Anya sanyoga, with the contact with the other. A car hits, the body can die, the car hits. COVID comes, the body can die. Contact with the other. But consciousness, how will it have contact with the other? What can contact consciousness? It's not a physical thing. He says, na cha anyataha nirangshatvat, because consciousness does not have parts with which you can interact. A body can be hit by a car, because the car can come and hit your legs or something. COVID can attack you because there are things in the body which the COVID virus can attack. But what can attack consciousness? What entity can attack consciousness? He will discuss this little later, more in the 5th verse. Nacha ashraya vinasha. Person may die if deprived of food or water. Data will be lost if the hard disk crashes or the book is burnt. But what is the foundation, basis of consciousness? Nothing. Consciousness itself is the basis of everything. We have already proved, the earlier proof, consciousness is the cause. If you destroy the wood, the table will be destroyed also. But destroying the table does not mean destroying the wood. It will just go back to being just wood. So, consciousness cannot be destroyed by destruction of its basis, because consciousness has no basis. Anashraya, consciousness itself is the basis of the universe. Who says? We just proved it. Verse number 3. I think I won't take up the 5th one. Let's take a few questions because time for lunch is at 12:30. Yes. Oh, I'm just not leaving enough time for questions. Maybe in the next session we should start with questions. Yes. Yeah. Questions? The lady here. All right, we won't do the microphone thing. I'll repeat the question. Let her ask.
So we discussed the concept of Sarvapriyananda. How do you apply it to conditions like split identity disorder or dementia?
True. Split identity. The question is pratyavidya, recognition. How do you apply it to conditions like dementia or split identity? Notice, multiple personality disorder, split identity, or dementia, that I don't remember. To recognize, you need memory, right? So memory itself is gone. But the consciousness to which the memory, functioning of memory and the loss of memory, that consciousness is not gone. So you can, whatever little memory remains, you can use it for recognition. Because whatever you remember, consciousness must have been there. And so any one thing you remember, one point of memory and this point of experience, you can immediately use recognition to recognize consciousness is present. And the answer, the interesting case study of multiple personalities or split personality, and there are many other people inside. I am not one. There are many here. But remember, even multiple personalities are only one at a time. So there will be many others, but when I am interacting with the person with the multiple personality disorder, it's one right now, dominant. But there, we are not talking about personalities. Notice, we're going behind the personality to consciousness itself. That person and this person, both in my mind, isn't that person conscious when I am that person? And when this person is there, don't they both have the feeling of I am? And isn't awareness powering, illumining both? That awareness, is it the same or not? The personalities are different. The characteristics are different, but consciousness is the same. Yes.
So the idea of the mountain being an artifact in consciousness seems like more theoretical because from the, you said that from the experience of the mountain, the body has to be there, the mind has to be there. So how can we practically say that?
Yes, the question here is, you look at the mountain. Now are you claiming that the mountain is in consciousness, is in me the consciousness? Or is in my consciousness or is in me the consciousness? Because as you said, body has to be there, mind has to be there, eyes have to be there. Then only you see the mountain. Notice it's exactly the same in your dreams. When I see a mountain in my dream, I don't know I'm dreaming, I'm seeing a mountain, I'm looking at that mountain and I'm seeing the mountain. At that time also body is there, eyes are there. I don't think in my dream, oh I'm dreaming, I don't need the body and mind, I can directly see the mountain. No, I feel it's just like a waking state. So there is a body, there is an eyes, there is a mind thinking, and there is a mountain which I am seeing clearly outside me. There can't be a mountain inside me, no matter how overweight I am. There won't be a mountain inside me. And yet when I wake up, what's my conclusion? Mountain, body, eyes and mind, all there in me the dreamer. In the same mind. Then what would you say to that? But then there are questions. You are equating dream and waking. In dream it is true. The whole thing is true in the mind, right? But the waking is outside the mind. And then this goes to Mandukya Kalika. You will say, prove it that it's outside the mind. Why do you think it's outside the mind? You feel it's outside the mind, but give me reasons. Multiple reasons are there. I can give you at least 10 reasons to show why dreams and waking are different. And then cut down those 10 reasons to show that they are the same. For example, things in the waking world work. Water in the dream will not quench my thirst. It's hot out there. I need real water, not the water I dreamt of. But you are mixing the dream and the waking. In the dream, thirst will be quenched by water in the dream. You may have all the water next to you on the bed, near the bed. It won't quench your thirst when you are dreaming. Right? So in the dream, whatever is there works in the dream. It works. You don't You are not drinking water in the dream and saying, it doesn't do anything. After all, it's dream water. How can it quench my thirst? You don't say that. Then another argument. Look, dream is all in my head. It's private. This is public. It's a shared reality. You see it, I see it, we all interact. We will all see the same food, hopefully. But it's not in my mind. It's out there. It's shared. Everybody sees it. But your dream, my dream, they're all separate. But again, in the dream itself, suppose you are having a tea party with your friends, and you are having tea. Will your friends say, you have a cup of tea? Will your friends say, I can't see the tea? It's after all your dream. No, the tea and the friends and all that, and even you are part of one imagined public reality construct in the dream. Another example could be look, this is so solid and real. Somebody said, this is industrial grade reality. The dream is just like VR, imagination. But in the dream, it doesn't feel like that. And when you are in the dream, it doesn't feel that this is a little smoky, must be a dream. Sometimes it might, but we don't normally think like. Normally dreams feel like waking. So, there are 10 possible arguments, at least I have come across 10 arguments, which are cut down to show, and then you get this creepy feeling, dreams and waking they seem to. Yeah. Then I'll take one more, then we'll go for, okay, the lady there. So I haven't taken questions from this side. We will start the next session with questions from this side. Don't remember your questions or write it down. There's a saying, the faintest ink is sharper than the keenest memory. So that's the last question this whole lunch.
So today you spoke about the shining radiant I am of the self. In Refuting, you spoke about I of the ego, which has no relationship with the self itself. So how do we distinguish between the I am of the ego and the self?
That's easy. I can subcontract this answer out to Lakshmidhara Kavi. He is going to tomorrow. It won't be today. Tomorrow we will spend quite a bit of time. After all of these discussions, to show that I am Brahman, then the big question arises, if all of this is true, why don't I feel like that? And then they will take up the reason, the body-mind identification, why we don't feel like we are pure consciousness, because we have become identified with something in consciousness, some objects like the body and the mind. There the biggest culprit is the ego, the I. So the question will be, why all this, the self is pure consciousness, pure being, why go into such subtle metaphysics? Everybody knows what the self is, all of us know. It's the ego, the one which is saying I. So how is this I different from the pure consciousness which Vedanta is talking about? He will dwell on that for 3 verses, one after another, and show the I is there is pure consciousness, and you are pure consciousness and not the I. He will show that. I am not I. It's like literally contradictory. It's also, he will show it as an obvious fact. You can't be the little I. Good. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna